Yo, welcome to part two of top 10 games of my life. Next one, this one, I'm going to talk about Wind Waker. Yes, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I really love that game. A lot of people are probably going to disagree with me, and we're probably going to see some interesting comments, not just kidding, but to me, Wind Waker is still the best Zelda game I've played. I agree. I can understand why people didn't like the ocean and the sailing and the cell shading. I can understand all that because I can. But to me, the story was probably the best story Zelda game had because to me I related better with this Link than the Link in Ocarina of Time. I beat that game recently and it was my first console Zelda game if you want to be technical because you pre-order Wind Waker, you get Ocarina of Time. So I played it. Um, and to me, it's just, I couldn't relate to that Link because it was just you're in a village, and you're an outcast, and you are the chosen one. It's just like, of course I'm the chosen one. I'm the only one who looks different from it. It was just like so typical almost. And I'm not saying that it makes the game worse. I loved Ocarina of Time is a great game. It really is. It's just I I, I can't get into that character because it's just like, of course, the story was just so almost generic because it was just like, well, you're an outcast, and it's just, But Wind Waker was just like, okay, well, you're just a kid, and you become 12 years old, you have to don this, and your sister gets kidnapped, and you overcome your fear of everything to uh, save your sister, and then you realize that there's more to it. There's more stuff going on, and the game pretty much says even like in the middle of the game or so that the King of Red Lions, the boat that saves you and brings you on all this quest, he did that all on a whim of he might be the hero. I mean, he might be the chosen one, and yeah, you're saying to yourself, well, of course I am because I'm playing as him, but it was to me it was just such a great story because it was just like, well, he may not be the hero, but he has to go through these trials to prove himself to the gods to that he is the true hero, and he goes through all these dungeons. I mean, even after he saves his sister, he could really just cut and run after that, but he still kept going because he was like, no, I have a job to do, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see through it. And to me, that's what makes the game great. Makes that game great was that it's just that the devotion that the game had was much more interesting, and I like the Zelda and Link relationship story in this one much more because it wasn't in your face about it. It was like, hey, these guys are gonna be together or anything. It was just kind of like oh, like I mean, it grew and evolved at the game, and it was just not, and it was just kind of like like not subconscious. It was just kind of like there, but it was tame and subtle and natural and organic. It wasn't just like these two were made for each other. I mean, of course, when you're playing, you're gonna that's the first thing that comes to mind. But when you get out of that mentality and you just look at it, it's just like, these guys have been through a lot, and blah 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 blah. It's just like it becomes more organic, and this becomes a better story overall. I mean, it's just a great game, and I mean, once you get over the sailing, it's the best game. Once you get over that, I mean, I will say the worst part of the game, which to me knocks it down from a perfect score to a 9 for me, if I were to score it, is searching for the 8 shards because that to me is just saying buy a strategy guide. That's pretty much what that game did because there's no hints as to where you should be going. They don't direct you where. They're just like, oh, you just have to find them. And it's like they don't even give you a hint as to where you're supposed to go. And that to me is a problem where the game pretty much forces you to buy a strategy guide. So I mean, I can understand that being a problem because I stopped playing the game for like 2 years because of that. But and again, to me, it's still one of the best games I've played, best Zelda games. Okay, we're on the last ones. Last game, my friends, we did it. We made it. I don't know why you're still watching these, but We made it. Arkham City. Now, to me, I mean, you're already saying to yourself, well, he's a Batman fan. Of course. But I mean, even when Arkham Asylum came out, that really wasn't on my top list. I mean, yeah, I gave it was my personal game of the year, but that was because it was up against Uncharted 2. And Uncharted 2 is just kind of it wasn't as good as Arkham Asylum, but this was the best Batman game I have played, and it makes me almost want to just say Arkham Asylum was just a bad game, but it wasn't. I mean, but Arkham City to me, I had so much to do in it, and to me, it was one of the best games I played. Because Arkham Asylum had pretty much no boss fights, which a lot of people complained about. This one, and I can understand why there was no boss fights in Arkham Asylum because you can't really do that, I guess. But in Arkham City, they were just like, hey, you know what? You want a boss fight? Here you go. And I think the final boss would probably be the most controversial boss because in Arkham City because it was a villain that you wouldn't want to fight, but I don't know. It's like it was just an odd boss fight, and it was neither bad, but it wasn't great either. I mean, it was just there, and it was fun. It wasn't like, oh, this is so boring, but I mean, overall, I think this is just the best game because even once you beat it, you can either go back through the same city and just get extras, and this is the biggest problem I had with Arkham Asylum was that once you beat the game, all of the goons and thugs are gone. And clearly that makes sense as to why, but when you're playing a game, you kind of want to have something to fight and something to make the place live instead of just going through nothing. And with Arkham City, there's still like thugs on the ground, and you still get to fight some thugs and all that as you're going trying to solve riddles and all that. I mean, it was just had so much more to it than just the main storyline. There was so much more to do in the background as well. And what I also liked about it was that it was linear, but you could. I mean, it pointed in the direction that you had to go for the main story, but at the same time, you could always just stop and do your own little thing, and then come back and then continue the main story. It never really forced you to go one way or the other. It was just kind of like, well, if you want to do the story, keep going this way. Otherwise, have fun. And that to me is great. That's the best way to direct a gamer in an open world like that. And a lot of people were just saying, oh man, I wish Arkham City was bigger. And to me, I don't want it to be bigger. I think it's the best size because to me, it's just like the way that the gameplay is. Would you really want to go around a big city, pressing R1 and just like going out there? I mean, yeah, it'd be more lively if it was bigger, but it's just it would be more cumbersome to do that. And the size that it is now, it's much more tolerable and a lot less cumbersome. I mean, there was only one area that was just kind of ambiguous for them to do, which was you had to track down this one person by following their blood stains or something, and that technique was too ambiguous for doing it in a city because there's a lot going on. But I mean, overall, it's just such a great game. It's so beautifully done, and I love it. And the one thing that made it the best was that you could always go back to it, and then once you beat it, you unlock a mode called Game Plus, which some games have that, some games don't. But this one I appreciate a lot more. You get to it carries over your XP and all that. And of course, the first thought is like, oh, that's gonna be so broken. But Game Plus, like, it changes the layout of the soldiers and their routes and everything about them. They change so that like it's not gonna. I mean, you might see like the knife people earlier in the game. You might see the shield people earlier in the game. I mean, it's they're different uh, combinations of thugs, which is much more fun, and they also have longer health and stamina. They remove the counter signs. And it's a harder game, which to me it's great. That's how a game should be. It should be that challenging, and that's really what I love about Arkham City is that it almost trains you to do Game Plus mode. It doesn't. And it makes you want to play more of it. It's not like, well, beat the game, you're done, bye. It almost as if it encourages you to go back through the city and unlock these riddles. And and get and do more stuff, and it really captures everything about Batman as well. And the one thing I really do miss from Arkham Asylum is that Arkham Asylum, you get to collect these tapes of each patient in Arkham Asylum, and you can hear their session between them and the psychologist. But in Arkham City, they don't have that. They gotta have it with the answering machine that Batman has that Joker calls them on. But that's not even. I mean, that has only like 5 tapes, and then you're done. And I mean, and that's fine to listen to and all that, but Arkham Asylum had the best one, but whatever. But overall, it's just Arkham City is it's one of the best Batman games I've played. I could go on for like an hour on how good this is. So I'm gonna stop it here. That's my top 10. I might do movies later on, so stay tuned for that if you really, really love my voice and love hearing me talk.